So today I want to talk about why David was appointed to be king of Israel and why Ben David, son of David, is appointed to be king of Israel. It goes like this. This is in 1 Samuel 13, when Saul disobeyed the words of Yehovah, not the Lord, but Yehovah is his name. And Samuel was sent to bring the bad news of Saul's demise as king of Israel. And he said in verse 14, "But your kingdom shall not continue. Not the Lord, but Yehovah." You see it right there. You see how it's pronounced. "Has sought him a man after his own heart." What does that mean? What does it mean to be a man after Yehovah's own heart? You see the term again in Acts 13. It says here in verse 21, "And afterward they desired a king." And as you just saw, it's not God, it's Yehovah. "Gave unto them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, by the space of 40 years. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I found David the son of Jesse," or it should probably be Asiah, "a man after my own heart, which should fulfill all my will." What does it mean to be a man after Yehovah's own heart? Well, I'm going to show you what David did. 1 Samuel 24, verse 1, "And it came to pass that when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, as it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness in the En-gedi." That would be, where was this located? A place on the western shore of the Dead Sea. "Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the wall by the way where there was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet. And David and his men remained on the sides of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which Yehovah said unto you, Behold, I will deliver your enemy into your hand, and that you may do to him as you see fit. And David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privately, the extreme, just a corner of it. And it came to pass that afterward David's heart was smote within him, because he had cut off a portion of Saul's skirt. And he said unto him, his men, Yehovah forbid that I should do this thing unto my Adon, Yehovah's anointed." Now, this is very critical to understand. David recognized that Saul was still Yehovah's anointed. "To stretch forth my hand against him, seeing that he is the anointed of Yehovah." So David restrained, stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. Now David also arose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried out unto Saul, saying, Adon the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth, and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Why do you listen to these men who say, Behold, David comes and seeks your hurt? This day your eyes have seen how that Yehovah has delivered you today into my hand in the cave, and some try to convince me to kill you. But my eye spared you, and I said I would not put forth my hand against Adon, for he is Yehovah's anointed. Now he says it, or it is spoken this way in 3 times. He would not do that to Saul because he is Yehovah's anointed. Moreover, my father, see yet the skirt of your robe in my hand, for I cut the skirt of my robe and killed you not. Know you and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in my hand. I have not sinned against you, yet you hunt my soul to kill me. Yehovah, judge between me and you, and Yehovah, avenge me of you. These are very... So he's asking Yehovah to take vengeance upon Saul for hunting him without cause. But my hand shall not be upon you. I will never kill you, he says. Because the proverb of the ancients say this, wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand shall not. After whom is the king of Israel come out? Why are you pursuing me? Are you chasing a dead dog or a flea? Yehovah, judge between me and you, and contend my cause, and deliver me out of your hand. And it came to pass that when David was made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, is this the voice of Ben David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said unto David, you are more righteous than I am, for you reward me with uprightness and kindness. Tov means kindness in Hebrew. Let me go make sure I save that, and I will show you the word Tov. It means kindness, okay? Just so you know. So Saul confesses to David that when Saul was trying to kill David, David rewarded him with kindness. This is very important for you folks to understand. And you have showed this day that you have dealt well with me, for as much as when Yehovah has delivered me into your hand, you did not kill me. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away free? Yehovah reward you for what you have done unto me today. And now I know well that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established into your hand. Okay. Now, so Paul here in Romans 12 is quoting Yehoshua. And he's telling the Romans this. He says, bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind toward all peoples. It's very important because I'm going to show you when the Christians decoupled themselves from the Jews. Meaning up until that time, they were technically coupled with the Jews. Mind not high things, lofty things. Now, I don't know why they put the word condescend. Today, condescend does not mean what it's supposed to mean. But what it means is this. Identify with. Okay? What happened here? Well, there it is. Identify with men of lower estate. In other words, the poor folks, identify with them. Do not be wise in your own conceits. Recompense no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lies with you, be peaceable. Try to be peaceful with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says Yehovah. Therefore, if your enemy hunger, feed him. Well, the Romans called the Jews their enemy. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing you shall heap coals of fires on his head. Now I have a question to ask you. When the Jews were hungry, did the Romans feed them? Nope. When the Jews were thirsty, did the Romans feed them? Nope. We all know this. It says, do not be overcome with evil, but overcome and overpower evil with kindness. Kindness. You just heard the word for tov. It's kindness. But what did the Christians do? Among the words of the Constantine Creed are this: the early document of the Roman Catholic Church established by the Emperor Constantine and codified at the Council of Nicaea as a fundamental but little-known policy of the Catholic Church. And I want every one of you to understand that this is the foundation of the church as we know it today. When I say the church, I'm talking about the Catholic Church. I'm talking about all the Protestant denominations. I'm talking about all of the Orthodox Christians. All of them. And Baptists, you are included. This is the decoupling of the so-called church ecclesia from the Jews. And when they decoupled themselves from the Jews, well, Romans 11 talks about that. I renounce all customs, rites, legalisms, unleavened breads, and sacrifice of lambs of the Hebrews. Well, Yehoshua said he is that unleavened bread. And he is a Hebrew. Okay. He was the sacrificial lamb. And he is a Hebrew. Folks, you have to understand that words mean things. It is written that every idle word that men shall say, he will give account unto on the day of judgment. For men will be justified or condemned by the words that proceed from his mouth or text. This is a classic example of anyone who applies the Constantine Creed to his own life, has decoupled themselves from the Jews, therefore decoupling themselves from the Jewish Mashiach, and negating and removing all of the promises of forgiveness of sin on Israel and upon himself. And all the other feasts of the Hebrews, sacrifices, prayers, aspirations, purification, sanctification, appropriations, and fasts, and new moons, and Shabbats, and superstition, and hymns, and chants, and observance, and synagogues. And synagogue, by the way, is a Greek word, it's not a Hebrew word. Y'all made that word up. Absolutely everything Jewish. This was the decoupling of Christianity, of the Gentiles, from the Jews. Every law, every rite and custom, and if afterwards I wish to deny and return to Jewish superstitions, or shall be found eating with Jews, or feasting with them, or secretly conversing and condemning the Christian religion, instead of openly confuting them and condemning their vain faith, then let the trembling of Cain and the leprosy of Gehazi cleave unto. Well, the leprosy of Gehazi is going to cleave unto you, Christians, because you decoupled from the Jews, as well as the legal punishments which acknowledge myself liable, and I quote them, saying, may I be anathema in the world to come, and may my soul be set down with Satan and the devils. Okay? And right here it said, let us have nothing in common with the most hostile rabble of the Jews. And then it says in the Council of Nicaea, here I accept all customs, rites, legalism, and feasts of the Roman sacrifices, prayers, and fear. And I've gone over this before. But what I'm talking about today is the Christian decoupling from Jews, and why you should be afraid of that. Once again, here's the parable of the unforgiving servant. Matityahu 18, verse 23. Yehoshua speaking here. Therefore the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a certain king, who had taken account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him which owed him 10,000 talents. But forasmuch as he had not to pay, his master commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children, all he had, and payment to be made. And the servant therefore fell down and reverenced him, saying, Adon, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. And then the Adon of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. He forgave him, just like David forgave Saul. But David said to Saul, you need to understand that Yehovah is going to take vengeance on you for this. But he's not going to do it. But that same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants which owed him 100 pence. That is $1 single. And he laid hands on him, and he took him by the throat, saying, pay me what you owe. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, have patience with me, I will pay you all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison. This is what you Christians did to the Jews, who owed a lot less than you did, till he should pay the debt. And when his fellow servants saw what was done, that they were very sorry. And they came and told their Adon all that was done. And his Adon had called him up and said unto him, you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt. All right, you Gentiles, Yehovah forgave you all that debt. And what did you do? What did you do? Because you desired me to. Should not also have you had compassion on your fellow servant, just like I had pity on you? And his Adon was wroth and delivered him to the torturers, till he should pay all that were due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father Abba do also unto you, if you from your hearts do not forgive every one his brother their trespasses. Well, in the Constantine Creed, in the Nicene Creed, in the Laodicean Creed, there is uncoupling from the Jews, the unforgiving of the Jews, when the Jews are still Yehovah's anointed, as Paul proves in Romans 11. Romans 11, I will show you where the Jews are still Yehovah's anointed. Way down here. It says right here. He says about the Jews to the Romans concerning the glad tidings of Zion, not gospel. They might be enemies for your sakes, but concerning the election, they are beloved for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's sakes, because the gifts and calling of Yehovah cannot be repented of. In other words, they are still Yehovah's anointed. In the past, or since the Nicene Creed, show me an example of where the Jews fought back against the Christians who tried to genocide them. You can't name one. And now the Jews will be considered men after Jehovah's own heart. And it will be done to you Christians like was done to Saul. Your kingdom is going to be taken away from you and given to a man after Jehovah's own heart. The man you will certainly call the Antichrist, but his name is Yehoshua Mashiach.